Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Tucson and Southern session of the Arizona Office of Tourism Regional Webinar Series. Today's session is packed with data. We'll walk through high-level insights for the state, Tucson and the Southern region, and Pima, Santa Cruz, Graham, Greenlee, and Cochise counties. Just a quick note, some of the numbers have been rounded for easier viewing, so they may not reflect the exact figures. We have an exciting session ahead of us. First, we'll kick things off with our Arizona-specific data, where we'll take a closer look at what's happening across the state. In 2024, Arizona welcomed about 41.2 million overnight visitors, which remained about the same compared to 2023, up 0.7% compared to last year and 1.3% compared to pre-pandemic levels in 2019. More impressively, total visitor spending reached about 29.7 billion, a 1.4% increase over last year, and a significant 16.2% increase compared to 2019. Let's take a look at the travel spending across the state over the past 3 years. The orange line represents 2022, the blue line represents 2023, and the purple line represents 2024. While the lines may appear close together, 2024 actually outperformed both previous years. If you look at the peaks in the trend line, you'll notice that spring continues to be our high season, and 2024 followed that same pattern. In fact, travel spending in March 2024 reached around 4 billion. Let's take a look at statewide visitation for 2024 on a quarterly basis compared to 2023 in purple and 2019 in blue. Overall, overnight visitation in 2024 shows modest growth compared to 2023 and has surpassed 2019 levels in the second and fourth quarters. This growth is being driven primarily by leisure and resident travel segments. For example, in Q2 2024, resident visitation was up a strong 7%, and leisure visitation increased 4.6% compared to the same period in 2019. In contrast, the business travel segment continues to lag, with visitation in Q1 and Q3 of 2024 down about 3% and 5% respectively, compared to 2019. Moving on to our last state focus section, international visitation. In 2024, Arizona welcomed about 5.3 million international visitors, with over 85% of those visitors coming from North America, which consists of Canada and Mexico. Europe is the second largest market with about 8.3% of visitors, followed by Asia Pacific with 4.4%. If you look at the orange chart, we can see that international visitation is growing steadily from 3 million in 2021 to 5.3 million in 2023. While we haven't recovered to 2019's 6.1 million visitors, things are moving in the right direction. Now that we've covered what's happening across the state, let's zoom in on Tucson and Southern counties, and Pima, Santa Cruz, Graham, and Cochise to see what's happening there. And Greenlee. On this chart, we're looking at travel spending across the counties. In 2024, Tucson and Southern Arizona showed mixed results, pointing to overall regional stability. Strong demand in Pima County was balanced by smaller changes in surrounding counties. Pima County, the region's main economic driver, was mostly flat with just a 0.1% year-over-year increase. Among the surrounding counties, Graham increased the most at 3.4%, followed by Greenlee with 1.5%, and Cochise, on the other hand, the region's second largest economy, saw the biggest drop at 2.8% decline, and Santa Cruz declined about 1.6%. Now let's take a look at travel trends. In Cochise County, while overall travel spending declined by a modest 2.8%, the labor market experienced a sharp 8.4% contraction in employment. Typically, employment and earnings changes lag behind revenue. So this drop suggests businesses are making significant staffing adjustments. Despite this impact on jobs, core spending on accommodations and food service remained relatively stable. Graham County's travel economy experienced robust growth in 2024, with direct travel spending increasing about 3%. This growth was supported by a notable 13% rise in accommodations. spending and a 4% increase in food service expenditures. Employment grew in line with overall spending, up 3%, while earnings rose at more than twice that rate, climbing 7%. Greenlee's county travel economy experienced modest growth in 2024, with direct travel spending rising by 1.5%. Similar to Graham County, this growth was supported by a strong 14% increase in accommodations spending and a 2.5% increase in food service expenditures. This expansion contributed to a 5% increase in tax revenue generated by the tourism industry. In 2024, Pima County's travel spending was essentially flat, rising just 0.1%. Key sectors such as accommodations and food services, along with related tax revenues, posted growth. Jobs declined slightly by 0.1%, while earnings rose 2.6%. Santa Cruz experienced a small decline in travel spending, but maintained pretty stable tax revenues, employment, and rising earnings. Lodging and dining performed positively, helping sustain the local tourism economy. The county remains steady overall, showing resilience amid marginal shifts in visitor activities. Moving on to spend by accommodation. Cochise County's visitor accommodation mix in 2024 mirrored 2023's, with fractional changes across all categories. This market is fairly balanced, with hotel, motel, and short-term vacation rentals leading at 36.9%, and day travel close behind at 35.2%. Private homes also command a significant share at 21.6%. Graham County's accommodation spending is dominated by the hotel, motel, and short-term vacation rental sector, which increased its market share from 50.5% in 2023 to 52.3% in 2024. Private home use decreased slightly from 35% to 33.6%. Day travel edged down from 9.7% to 9.4%, showing day trip visitation, campground, and vacation home shares were unchanged. Greenlee County's 2024 lodging mix stayed nearly identical to 2023, with minor gains in page lodging and day travel offset by a small drop in private homestays. Long-term trends suggest consistent moderate growth across all accommodation types, led by the hotel, motel, short-term vacation rental, and private home categories. Pima County's accommodation spend is led by the hotel, motel, and short-term vacation rental sector, which makes up half of the market. While the spending mix was very stable year over year, the long-term trend shows that the dominant hotel, motel, and short-term vacation rental sector is the primary engine of growth. Day trips remain dominant, accounting for nearly 65% of all spending, with modest growth in hotel and private stays. Overall, Santa Cruz shows stable day trip driven visitation with minimal year-over-year change. On this chart, we'll be looking at spend by commodity. The breakdown of spend by commodity in Cochise County shows a broad but uneven decline from 2023 to 2024. Food services remain the largest expenditure category at $110.5 million, though it experienced a slight decrease. The overall downturn was primarily driven by sharp declines in local transportation and gas, which went down $4.3 million, and retail sales that went down $2.9 million, while spending on accommodations and arts, entertainment, and recreation remained relatively stable year over year. Travel spending in Graham County shows broad growth across most categories from 2023 to 2024, with a notable exception of transportation costs. The most significant driver of this growth was the accommodation sector, which saw a substantial increase of $2.2 million. This was complemented by a solid $1 million rise in food service, the largest overall spending category at $22.5 million in 2024. Greenlee County's tourism spending grew slightly in 2024, led by higher accommodations and food-related expenditures. Most categories remain stable, with only a small drop in transportation. Overall, the data shows consistent travel activity and moderate growth in key visitor segments. Pima County spending by commodity data shows a significant shift in traveler dollars from 2023 to 2024, explaining the county's overall flat spending. Core hospitality sectors grew strongly, with accommodations up $25.7 million and food service with larger categories up $13.2 million. However, these gains were nearly offset by declines in other categories. Local transportation and gas fell by $21 million, and retail sales dropped by $15.4 million. In 2024, Santa Cruz County's tourism spending and hospitality sector saw modest growth, with slight increases in accommodations, arts and entertainment and recreation, and food services, offset by small declines in food stores, retail, and transportation categories. Moving on to our next section, let's turn our attention to lodging performance. The short-term rental market in the Tucson and Southern region expanded from 2023 to 2024, with year-over-year growth in both the supply of available properties and the number of nights sold. This balanced expansion reflects a healthy and competitive market. In our next section, we will focus on airport passenger traffic in the Tucson Southern region. For state-level data, please go to our website at tourism.az.gov. For Tucson and Southern region airports, passenger volumes in 2024 slightly exceeded 2023 levels across most months, reflecting a modest recovery trend. Peaks occurred in March through April and November through December, mirroring seasonal visitation patterns. Compared with 2022, both 2023 and 2024 show sustained improvement, especially in early and late travel seasons. Moving right along to state and national park visitation data for the North Central region. In 2024, Tucson and Southern Arizona state park visitation increased by 3.4%. The increase was largely driven by significant double-digit growth at specific parks, notably Kartchner Cavern State Park increased 16.3%, and Tubac Presidio State Park increased 15.9%. The region's most visited park, Catalina State Park, also contributed a solid 4% increase. Visitation in the Tucson Southern region followed the same seasonal rhythm across all 3 years, peaking in March and tapering sharply through the summer. However, total visitation declined from 1.44 million in 2023 to 1.4 million in 2024, decreasing 2.6%, marking a modest slowdown after a year of strong recovery. This decrease was driven by a 6.4% drop in attendance at the region's largest attraction, Saguaro National Park. Let's shift over to gross sales in the Tucson Southern region. On this chart, we will take a look at gross sales across the county. In 2024, Cochise County's gross sales remained mostly stable across hospitality and retail. Restaurants measured growth, while hotels, retail, and amusement sectors stayed consistent, with only slight declines in some areas. Overall, the county's tourism economy held steady, supported by strong restaurant performance and stable retail and lodging activity. Between 2022 and 2024, Graham, Greenlee, and La Paz counties demonstrated steady tourism spending, particularly in lodging and dining, while retail stabilized and amusement fluctuated. Overall, the region shows resilience, with total gross sales trending upward, driven mainly by hospitality and restaurant growth. Pima County's gross sales continue to grow in 2024, building on the strong recovery of the previous year. Although the pace of the growth has slowed, the restaurant sector has stabilized at a new, higher level of performance, while the hotel-motel sector continues to post steady gains. The large retail sector remains a consistent anchor, while the amusement sector saw a minor dip after a strong 2023. Santa Cruz County's gross sales figures show a consistently positive economic picture, with healthy growth across all key sectors from 2022 to 2024. The restaurant and retail sectors have led this expansion with strong year-over-year increases, while the hotel and motel sector continues to post steady, reliable gains. We've now reached our final section. Let's take a look at what visitors in the Tucson and Southern region are doing. 2024 travel to Tucson and Southern Arizona was led by visiting friends and family at 48.5%, displaying steady year-over-year preferences. Leisure-oriented segments like outdoors decreased 2.5 points and special events increased 1.7 points, while touring and city trips declined. Business travel showed a slight recovery, and small niches like casinos saw marginal gains. In 2024, hotel stays led at 34.1%, but declined 2.7 points year over year, while lodging with friends or relatives rose to 30.1%, a 4-point increase. Motels and resort hotels posted minor gains, and campgrounds, bed and breakfasts, and other categories saw slight declines. Moving on to visitor summaries. 2024 data shows that 79.6% of visitors to Cochise County stayed overnight, with 65.4% being repeat visitors and an average stay of 2.9 days. Tucson and Phoenix led as key origin markets, each with short stays but strong repeat visitors. Out-of-state visitors from Los Angeles, Dallas, and Albuquerque contributed to longer stays of 2.3 days. Atlanta visitors stand out with the longest average duration, 6.6 days, and displayed the highest loyalty at 73%. In Graham County, in 2024, there was a 76.6% overnight visitor share, with 67.2% repeat visitors and an average stay of 2 days. Most visitors coming from Phoenix, around 39%, and Tucson, around 20%, taking short overnight trips. Smaller out-of-state markets like Albuquerque, Santa Fe made up 4.6%, Las Vegas made up 3.3%, and Los Angeles made 2.1%, accounted for fewer visitors, but they stayed longer, around 2.7 to 2.8 days, indicating higher travel commitment and potential for increased spending. In 2024, about 75% visitors to Greenlee County stayed overnight, a solid share supported by a loyal repeat visitor rate of 67%. The average stay was just under 2 days, showing that Greenlee attracts shorter, purpose-driven trips. Phoenix leads overnight visitation with 44%, followed by Tucson and 14%, and Albuquerque Santa Fe area around 10%. All showing strong repeat rates between 66 and 72%. Visitors from farther away, like New York and Chicago, tend to stay much longer, averaging more than 6 days. Overall, Greenlee County's tourism is driven mostly by repeat visitors from nearby Arizona and New Mexico. While most trips are quick getaways, these longer visits from distant markets show potential for growth through extended stay and regional travel opportunities. In 2024, nearly 83% of Pima County's visitors stayed overnight, the highest amount among the southern counties. About 69% were repeat visitors, showing a steady return market. The average stay was 3.2 days, longer than Graham and 2 days, and Cochise at 2.9 days. Phoenix was a top source of 25%, followed by Las Vegas and Los Angeles, showing strong in-state and regional travel. Repeat visits were highest from Tucson and Sierra Vista, over 80%, while long-haul visitors from Chicago, New York, and Seattle stayed the average, the longest, which averaged about 6.5 days. Overall, Pima County attracts a mix of short in-state trips and longer out-of-state stays, supporting steady year-round tourism growth. In 2024, about 70% of Santa Cruz County's visitors stayed overnight, with nearly 67% returning, showing strong regional loyalty. The average stay was 1.8 days, reflecting mostly short trips. Tucson and Phoenix were the top sources, making up 45% and 16% of overnight visitors, with stays averaging of just 1.3 days. Smaller out of state markets, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Albuquerque, Santa Fe, each contributed 2 to 3% of visitors staying about 2.5 days. Visitors from Chicago stayed the longest, averaging 6 days. Overall, Santa Cruz County tourism is driven mainly by short repeat visitors from nearby Arizona cities, while longer stays from distant markets suggest opportunities for niche or seasonal tourism growth. That wraps up our webinar on the Tucson and southern region of Arizona. For more details on which counties make up each region, you can refer to the map. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue with the next session of the Arizona Office of Tourism's regional webinar series. For more regional data, please visit us at tourism.az.gov and navigate to the regional profile section or scan the QR code. If you have any questions on what we covered today or other research questions, please feel free to contact us. We hope the data we provided today is helpful. Thank you for joining us.